Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be back with you. And wow, what a week it's been. It's 4 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. And after the day that we spent Monday and Tuesday of this week, it feels like maybe we've gone past the time because so much time has already passed. I'm going to come back to Monday and talk about that, but I want to talk about yesterday. Yesterday we had our annual council retreat, if you will. We called it a workshop on all of our paperwork, but really it was a retreat because we had 2 brand new council members. We wanted to make sure that we got them introduced properly into our processes and our procedures. We wanted to talk about the rules that surround our Open Meeting Act. We wanted to talk about communications among one another. We wanted to talk about the ethics and the governance itself as to what is our charge, what are we elected for, how should we honor the law that we live under here in the state of Texas. Part of that was done by our city attorney, Kirsten Cahoon, who did a great job in explaining that. And it's always good review for us that have been around for a little while. And then we had in, who is, I think is our 3rd visit, from a gentleman by the name of Mike Schultz. He's a consultant to many cities, and he helps us once a year during this process. He interviews all of the council members ahead of time, myself included. We talk about issues that are going well, issues that we would like to have addressed. And he has just a wonderful way of going about the process to introduce maybe issues that we have some concern about, and being able to get those across in a very non-threatening way to everybody in the room. So we started that process at noon yesterday. We went through a master plan update, and then we introduced council to, this is the time of year we do that, to our annual budget. Remember, a municipal budget runs from October 1st through September the 30th. So we introduce this, staff gets it in March actually. We introduce it to council in June, go through a series of workshops, individual meetings with staff and council, ultimately getting us to our first meeting in September, where we're adopting a budget and we're adopting a tax rate, whether that be holding the tax where it is, lowering it, or even increasing it as well. Some of the things that council got introduced to yesterday on our budget, and I'll go over those very quickly. Remember, there is our general fund, and then we also have utility funds. We're an MOU city, which means a municipally owned utility. But in our general fund, that is ad valorem tax, that is sales tax, it's franchise fees, building permits, and any money that we might have coming in as a result of interlocal agreements. What we found out yesterday was that we are anticipating at the end of September that we, the city of Boerne, will collect around $7.2 million in ad valorem tax. Next year we're presenting that, or projecting that in our initial budget anyway, conversations, to be right around 7.5. That's the information that we're getting from the appraisal district as to the value of homes that will go up this year. Sales tax, this is kind of an interesting number because it almost matches identical to what our ad valorem tax is. And that's going to be most unusual for most other municipalities in the state of Texas. This year, or in our budget that we're proposing, that our sales tax revenue will be right around $7.4 million, which is a lot of sales tax revenue. It speaks very well to the tourism that we have in this community. Our electric sales, probably going to go up maybe $300,000 with a 2% increase. Remember, we have a very defined area that we can serve electricity. Not the case for water or wastewater or gas, but we do have a very defined area for electricity. So it is a number that before long will max out that number. Water sales should be up right around $5 million with a 6% increase. It's our largest growing, along with gas. that's coming along. Wastewater should be right up around 4.8. We got introduced to the bids and the one that was accepted for our new convention visitors bureau that we're going to start construction here pretty quickly in the next 30 days or so, and that's going to be right on Main Street. Everyone is very excited about that. So council got that information and will be in our budget for next year. The other big thing, I was reminded last night that it was July of 2015 that I asked staff to put together a space needs assessment for our new city hall. And that really started off 3 years ago now, our road to finally getting the final vote last night to our construction manager at risk as to our final construction cost. We call it a guaranteed maximum price. So the contractor is saying, here's the number, and that number was $18,765,000. It may go lower because we're doing some value engineering right now on that, but that was the last and final vote that took place. I would guess that in 3 or 4 weeks, we'll actually have equipment out there and we'll actually be moving dirt to be able to celebrate our ribbon cutting for our new city hall, first ever in the city of Boerne. It'll be about an 18-month build. So look for more information as we progress along the 18 months, but somewhere in November or December of 19, we'll be walking into that new beautiful building. Just some financial facts. You know, $100 million of new ad valorem values. So appraisal district goes out, they value all the homes. In order to get $462,000 of revenue, we need $100 million of value on new homes any given year. A 1 cent or 1 penny, and I'm not suggesting that there's any discussion about a tax increase, but 1 penny of tax increase yields $169,000 of new revenue. Now, to put that in perspective, though, to add 1 additional police officer, his clothing, his equipment, a car, and everything else comes to $89,000. So 1 penny of tax increase yields 2 police officers, or 1 firefighter is right around $70,000 along with his equipment. So it was quite an introductory day for the council to be able to get this, and now we'll be digging deep into how all those numbers come into play as we go forward. Then, if the retreat was not long enough, from noon to 5:30, we took a little break to get some sustenance, some food in us, and then we started our regular scheduled city council meeting at 6 o'clock. We had 5 different public hearings. One of them had to do with the zoning of a particular property here on a property that's referred to as Mark Motors. We actually had a zoning public hearing for our own wastewater treatment plant that's not in the city. We are annexing that into the city. There's a couple of new businesses coming to town. Hovey Motors, which has been on San Pedro in San Antonio, I think since the beginning of time. They're actually going to move their business out here to Boerne. And then also we're getting a new Polaris ATV dealership. It's also going out in that same area, which is kind of in the southwest corner of Boerne. And then along with, we've got one section that we had set aside with cottages. There are some new garden homes that are going to go in, and so we did a rezoning on that as well. And each one of those then came out out of their public hearings. We took votes. All of those passed. And so there will be an opportunity there for a second reading at our next meeting. We also we have been working on our utilities and out on 46, getting ready for that widening, which we hope will happen here towards the end of this year. Much needed. Traffic is really pretty rough out there. It's going to get rougher with the construction, but it will be 4 lanes with the turn lane And when we get all that done, which is probably about a 2-year time frame, certainly things are going to improve greatly. We had a couple of items that we took into executive session. We've called for public hearings coming up at our next meeting on the 10th of July. We've got some accessory buildings that are being discussed for a particular property. There's going to be a rezoning of 12 Herf. That developer has asked for a rezoning of that, and along with permanent zoning on some property out in Cascade Caverns. So it was a pretty long, busy day, but a lot of business taken care of. One of the things that I wanted to mention today was there was a meeting in a private home this last Monday night, and it had to do with the discussion that we had on the items for planning and zoning along with our Historical Landmark Commission. And so Monday night there was a resident here in town that called for a bunch of people. There were about 75 people there, I guess. And it was about CVS drugstore going on the corner of 46 and Main Street, a primary corner in our historical landmark area, geographical area. We spoke directly to that. I've not come across anyone that's excited about that. And so we wanted to make sure that we explained to all the concerned citizens what the process was, because it starts with our Historical Landmark Commission, it goes through our planning and zoning, and ultimately gets to City Council. Quite a process, but a process that works very successfully and quite well. Wanted to just kind of bring you up to date on that. There's lots of information floating around out there on social media, so you can get caught up real quick. Make sure you sift through all of that and get to the truth before making any judgment. Or you can call here and ask for Pam or Holly, give them the question, and we'll address that the next time we get together. So thanks so much for being here. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you listening to what is going on in Boerne, Texas. Mike Schultz, Mayor of Boerne. Have a good day.